Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined. Henry David Thoreau said that quote, or at least it's attributed to him. And that quote has meant a great deal to me for years and years. Probably around 2008, I bought a journal at Barnes & Noble. Is anyone else addicted to that little section and you have this dream that you're going to write in your journal? Well, that's me. And I bought that journal. And in that journal, I started writing down some ideas about what my dreams were, what type of life I wanted to live. I'm still working on I want to be a person who exercises regularly. I am still not that person. But what a great inspiration to think that we could go confidently in the direction of our dreams to live the life that we've imagined. I am building a career now that I hope will help other people do that. Because my dream and the direction that I'm headed is to be a trainer, a speaker, and a coach. And I've come a long way since those days in the church basement in 2009, where participating in a Toastmasters club really had a great impact on me. And it awakened something in me that I had tried, perhaps, to tampen down. When I had the opportunity to speak at Sisters U 2 years ago, it was made abundantly clear to me that you need to share your story. So I went all in, and I talked about what's your story and how do we tell our story. And I talked about the fact that I started as a high school English teacher. Dream job at my old school where I went to school. I was hired before I even graduated college. And what did I do? I quit just a year into my job, my dream job. But making that choice and making that decision helped me realize that I'm responsible for my future. When you quit your dream job, or what you thought was your dream job, pretty much every choice you make after that is one you can feel significantly more confident about. So tonight I'd like to talk to you about stepping into your dreams. And there are 4 types of steps that I might suggest. Now, wouldn't it be absolutely perfect if all of us knew exactly where we were headed? The Waze app, I have Elvis, so Elvis told me how to get here today, thank goodness. I saw that you can get Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, but I thought I cannot betray Elvis. I'm not a fan of Elvis's music, but I like it when he says, "Oh, you reach your destination." That's my favorite. Somehow I do not think that at the end of our journey, Elvis is going to be there saying, "You've reached your destination." Unless, of course, your destination is to get to Graceland. Would that be the right place? But there is no one right path. Take a look at Sue's story. Sue did not end up where she thought she would end up, but yet she is doing exactly what she wanted to do. And we don't know exactly what path. There is no one right path. So if you think today I'm going to say, well, here's exactly what you need to do, and now you're going to be achieving your dreams, it ain't going to happen. And anybody else who tells you that they know it, they don't. But there are 4 different steps that I'd like you to consider taking. And the first one is stepping in. Stepping into your dreams. Earlier today, you filled out one of the questionnaires. How many of you had an answer to what your dream is? Okay. Some people have to think about it a little bit longer. Sometimes it's something easy, it's something short-term, or something that you've been already working on for a long time. Other times you're like, what do I really want? But in my view of the world, stepping into your dreams means claiming that dream, starting to talk about it. And for me, here's an interesting way that I did it. In 2007, I decided that I needed a coach. Now, I had no business and no income to have a coach. But I called a woman who was a coach that I had heard speaking, and she had one of those, take a free consultation. So I did. I called her, and I met with her, and I realized she coaches attorneys. She charges, I don't know, $500 to $1,000 a month, something that was far more than I could ever consider paying for at that time. But we negotiated, and she agreed to $150 for 1 session per month. That was still way more than I thought I really should be spending on that. It was one of the best decisions that I ever made. And in the short time that we worked together, less than a year, which is about what my budget could sustain, it really awakened in me this desire. And I found recently, last year, I found this notebook that was going to be all my great ideas. You see, there's still a lot of blank pages in here. But on the back, it says, declaring my intention. I own a successful consulting practice. I empower my clients, mostly working moms, to improve their own life satisfaction. I teach them to change their lives through changing their language and thoughts. I partner with them to identify and implement effective strategies for success, and they consistently overcome each challenge. I am rewarded with a high level of job satisfaction from helping people help themselves, and with a solid income to support my family. I enjoy a great quality of life that I have created for myself and successfully balance the multiple priorities of being a mother, wife, entrepreneur, and individual. I practice what I preach. This was dated September 9th, 2008. How much of this have I achieved? Frankly, not all of it yet, but I'm working on it. But I made a very deliberate point of mapping out what I wanted my reality to be. I have not pursued this dream single-handedly. Do you know what I did? I ripped out the front pages of the notebook. I covered it over with a pink Post-it note. I'm a big fan of all different sizes of Post-it notes. And I covered it up. But yet somehow, events in my life have arranged themselves in such a way that now I am in a position to do many of these things. My husband is leaving his job. We are going to be a one-income family. That is going to provide a lot of challenge for me and also opportunities. Opportunities that will free up my additional scheduling time and a lot of possibilities for me to pursue something. For years I said, well, we could never do that. We can't afford that. Am I making more money now and that's why we can afford it? Not really. I just have a higher level of confidence in what I'm able to do and a clearer sense of priorities for what our family wants to look like. And what we want to look like is not this harried, rushing, can't make it to sports on time, you can't be in Girl Scouts because we can't get home, you're in this place one day, you're in this place some other day. We've tried to build something that is going to be more consistent and more sane, and we're willing to sacrifice some income to be able to do that. That's not something I had necessarily envisioned. Oh wait, look, a solid income to support my family. It's something ultimately that I end up working on. What are some other ways that we might step into our dreams? I think an affirmation is a good one. Anybody have any other suggestions of ways we can start stepping into our dreams? I would suggest tonight some of you did that by naming it. Maybe you named something that you never said out loud before. Go ahead.
We were talking earlier, and Robin was saying she visualized herself in the space that she was dreaming about. So that's a step to see
Absolutely.
yourself in place.
Absolutely. To start looking and creating that reality for yourself and picturing yourself there. This may sound crazy, but do you know why I have spiky hair? I have spiky hair because it's distinctive. And because when I started dreaming of being a speaker and a coach, I thought I needed a presence. And that's why I decided to do that. And it's easy. But before, I never really took care. I never had a style. I didn't. I never had a style. When Trina met me, my hair was kind of floppy, and all of a sudden I thought, no, I want to look like a speaker and a coach. Sometimes you have to act as if you have to fake it till you make it. That does not mean lying.
That's awesome.
I don't think that means lying, but guess what?
I live to fake
Yeah.
it till you make it.
Absolutely, right? But there's a difference between doing that in a deceitful way and doing that in a I am claiming this for myself way. You have a LinkedIn profile, guess what? You get to call yourself anything you want. Now, people could call you out on that, but there's that little subject line. I started putting trainer, speaker, coach, because in my job, I do some coaching. Guess what? I'm speaking to all of you right now, so that makes me a speaker. All of you spoke to each other tonight. That means you're speakers too, right? But starting to lean into, step into that dream. Step into what that reality could look like. You dream of opening a bakery? What do? You start volunteering even more often to provide the treats with the caveat or the stipulation that people provide you honest feedback. Because the last thing you want to do is open a bakery and have crappy cupcakes. So but if everyone's always said, oh, they're so good. Well, they're good for, every day, but maybe not in a commercial setting, right? So you start stepping into that in those little ways. Trina said it very well when she was echoing Sue. You also share it with other people. But you start by sharing it with people that will support you. When I wrote this for myself. I don't think I said this out loud to my husband for another year or two. And when I joined Toastmasters and started realizing, because that doesn't say anything about speaking, because as soon as I joined Toastmasters, which was 2 weeks after I wrote that, I was like, oh, that's right. I love being in front of people. I like making people laugh. I like making people think. Every now and again, I like making them cry. And all of a sudden, I had this new piece of reality. It took me a long time before I said it out loud. I did not introduce myself to Trina, hi, I'm going to be a speaker. Not even remotely. But the more that I started, and when I did, I talked to my sister-in-law. And she was someone who believed that I had a story to tell. And I said, I think I want to be a speaker. On the phone. She was in Montana. It was like she could, literally she was in Montana. And I was like, she's like, that's great. It probably took me another year or two before I started saying it out loud to other people. I needed to claim it. And I would suggest that you do too. Whatever that dream might be. Step into those dreams. A second item I'd like you to consider is stepping up. Stepping up and volunteering. You think someday you might want to write a book? Well, then step up and get whatever opportunities you can to write. Even if it has nothing to do with the book. Are you writing a blog post? Are you writing on Facebook? Are you writing something in the church bulletin or a newsletter? Whatever it might be, to get into that habit of writing. There are a lot of different ways that each of us can look at those dreams, and I'd encourage you to do that and say, how can I step up? You have opportunities within this organization, within Sisters U, to step up in a way. And I've seen people do that in my affiliation with this firm, or this firm, sorry, business hat, with this group in the last 2 years since I was first introduced by Trina to Karen and all of the rest of you. But you have opportunities to step up into those dreams and make a choice to do something that you might not have done before, but you take on a little bit more of that responsibility and you step up and you say, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. Now, every time you step up, will it work out perfectly? Of course not. When I was part of a group called Women's Food Service Forum, it was an international group of women who were in the food service industry, in case you hadn't guessed, and we did these webinar series. And the first thing I did was step up to be one of the hosts for a webinar series, which basically said, hello everyone, welcome to the call. It's my pleasure to introduce the speaker today. And I read a paragraph about that person and then turned it over, maybe fielded some questions at the end. Now that's something I do all the time in my current job, but at that point I had zero experience. But I said, I'll do it. I'll do that. I'll put myself out there in that way. That went well. So then I volunteered because they were doing some interviews with industry leaders, big people, like big time names in the restaurant industry. I said, oh, I'll be an interviewer. Can I be an interviewer? Can I be an interviewer? Nobody even responded. But that didn't deter me. I mean, it ticked me off a little bit that they didn't even respond, but I wasn't the caliber of person they're looking for. I thought, I want to be that type of person. I'm going to keep stepping up for those opportunities. And stepping up is an important part of pursuing your dream. What can you do to step it up a little bit in your own life? A third step that I would like you to consider is stepping down. Stepping down. Well, we have to say more no's to have more time for the right yeses. So if moving into this new area for you, pursuing one of your dreams is something that you need more yeses, then you might need to say some no's. There might be a volunteer position that you've been doing for years that you need to step down from to take time to put toward the business that you're building. You may be someone who says, my goal, my dream is to retire at 55. Well, you might need to step down from some unpaid opportunities and move into paid opportunities. You might need to be able to make that change. Another idea is for someone such as myself, I'm moving more and more into a position of now, not just the primary, but a single breadwinner in our family. I need to step down from being the boss around the house. I need to step back from some of those expectations that I have and realize that somebody else can handle those things. There is a lot of stepping down that we need to do, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Julia Stewart, does anyone know that name? Julia Stewart is currently the president of IHOP, pretty big chain. And she started years and years ago, she was in the marketing capacity, so a corporate position, a rising star in the industry and in the restaurant chain that she was working for at the time. And I heard her speak, and I'll do my best to make sure I get the details right, but I hope that you'll see the point that I'm trying to make here. She realized that she would never be considered for the really top spots unless she had some P&L experience. Well, she wasn't going to get P&L experience at a corporate level unless she had had it at a restaurant level. So she left her 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever it might have been corporate job to become a manager at a Taco Bell. And she got her P&L experience. Now, some people thought that was crazy, right? Who would take that type of step back? Who would do such a thing to go from a corporate, fine dining, or I believe it's casual themed dining experience, to now all of a sudden working at a fast food restaurant? Well, she made that choice so she could get that P&L experience. And I already gave you the punchline, but she is now the CEO of IHOP, which is also Applebee's. She is one of the leaders in the restaurant industry and one of the few female leaders that's at that level. And she had to step back, perhaps even swallow some pride, to be able to do that. There may be places where you need to take a step back in your job, in an organization, and really look at it as ways to free your time. If you're just stepping back and then not doing anything with that time, well, I don't want you to all stop volunteering for Sisters U, but I want you to be able to say, what are we going to do? What changes do I have to make to give myself the capacity to move forward? Because if you're just adding on new things, you're doing all this stepping up, and now you're stepping out and you're stepping in, and you're never stepping back or stepping down, you're going to burn out really quickly. I have been there. 2 years ago when I spoke at Sisters U, it was very touching to me that the Sister of the Month was Shauna. And Shauna shared her story with me. She shared it with all of us. And when I came up, and there were some items that Shauna had shared about her own challenges and successes, and I was so moved by that. And I was so excited to really just have connected with someone and see what this group was all about. And I was on fire. And I love being in front of a group of people. And I loved connecting with all of you. And I went home, and I was in the doldrums. And a month later, I got to do exactly what I set out to do. I got to facilitate a workshop for Sisters U. And I was so excited. And it went well. I got good feedback. I think there were maybe 6, 7 of you in this room that were in that meeting at Pasqualina's, and it was all about getting things done and eating frogs. I remember Steph eating her frogs. And I went home, and I had a check. I had a check. Exactly what I set out to do. The reason I was introduced to an organization, I shared my goals with Trina at the beginning of 2013. I said, this year I want to be paid to speak, because I had never been. And so there was, a fee associated with the workshop, and it was a small check, but it was a check. And I went home, and I felt nothing. And I knew something was wrong. And the very next day, I admitted out loud to the very same sister-in-law that I shared my story with and my goal with years ago that I had a problem. And I started seeing a therapist for depression. I stopped eating gluten in the hopes that that would help. And I started taking better care of myself, and I stepped back from some of the pursuing, because I am a striver. I am in it, man. I am going to go full bore. And that was not serving me well. And I knew that, because even though pursuing what is truly my dream, and 2 years later I still feel is my dream, I wasn't feeling it. And I knew that that meant that I needed to make some changes. And I made some of those changes. And it's had a significant impact on me. But being in a place where I could be safe to share that, even now, but even 2 years ago, with hardly knowing people and starting to be able to talk about that, was such an important piece of my story and of my journey. And all those troubles make great stories. And we have the opportunity to learn from those. And so something I'd like you to consider when it comes to the steps is to learn from the missteps. Learn from those things that don't go as we are expected, or as you might have expected, or that you've hoped. When there are fewer people, when something that you might have expected at an event, or when it doesn't turn out. Okay, why not? And I learned that lesson from Trina too. I work in a pretty difficult environment, and I'm looking to make a change in my life. And a year or so ago, I applied for a position. I had no right applying for the job, really, but they said extra bonus points for creative cover letters, so I created this awesome, basically video, PowerPoint with myself talking about why they should hire me. I had this amazing phone screen, and then nothing. Never heard from them again, other than to eventually say, we went in a different direction. Don't you hate that? Any job seekers, like, we went in a different direction, the worst thing you can hear? What was the direction, and why wasn't I it? And Trina said to me, what did that experience teach you? And what I realized in exploring that is what was really attractive to me about that position is that it was training and it was close to home. And I would have more control over my quality of life and the time with my family. Well, that job didn't work out, but that all of a sudden got me on this path of thinking, you know, if I worked for myself, I understand for all of the entrepreneurs, I am not implying that it means fewer hours in any way or any type of better quality of life, but you have a slight bit more control. And maybe I could actually be home to put the kids on a bus or drop them off at school and then work like crazy. Or maybe, just maybe, the right fit for us is for my husband to quit his job. So I learned so much from that, and I'm somebody who had had pretty good success because I was usually introduced to an organization, had an interview, it went well, they needed to hire someone quickly, and there was my job. Well, it hasn't been that way for me. I've had a few interviews now with a few companies, and it's just tough. It's not working out. Oh, maybe that's because it's time for you to pay attention to the dream that you established in 2008, lady, and stop trying to work for other people and work for yourself. And that scares the heck out of me. But it's something I've been inspired to do by meeting all of you. There are so many people in this room who have done this exact type of thing in their own way. Whatever type of passion you have, you're pursuing it through entrepreneurship. It's not the answer for anyone. Quite frankly, I want to be a consultant that works for this consulting company, and this consulting company, so I don't have to find the work myself. So it's going to look a little different than what it does for other people. But that's been a huge part of learning. So please, learn from your missteps because there will be plenty. The fourth element, as we think about stepping in, stepping up, stepping down, and stepping out. Stepping out of your comfort zone. And that is such a cliche. But you have to think about what would you do if you weren't afraid? Because in my experience, it has been that when someone says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? The way you answer that is exactly what you need to be doing. And years ago at a conference, that same Women's Food Service Forum, there was a conference, and there was a stranger, no risk, right? Total stranger, never going to see her again. Met her in Texas. It was before I was really active on LinkedIn, would probably never talk to her again. She said, what do you want to do? What's your dream? What would you do if you weren't afraid? I said, I would speak. She said, I think you should. And so I am. But you need to step out by sharing with people, and stepping out by doing things that maybe you wouldn't have considered before. Trina mentioned that we met in Toastmasters. Toastmasters International is the international speaking organization, local chapters everywhere. It changed my life. And it really instilled in me a desire to speak and to train. We were a fledgling group, a new Toastmasters group, so it took us a while before we were even official. And once we were official, it was time to start participating in contests. So there's a contest structure at Toastmasters. And we put together a contest, and beforehand we agreed it wasn't really going to count for anything because it was a haphazard. We still had so few people, half of what's in this room, and it was hard to put together anything. But we put together a contest. And at Toastmasters, there's something called Table Topics. Table Topics is an impromptu speaking competition. And they do it at every meeting. And here we were at a club-level contest for a Table Topics contest. We knew the results didn't matter anyway. We weren't going to do anything with it. There were 3 of us that were contestants. Whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter anyway. I go up there and I win at the club level.
She always beat me.
It's true. I did. But only because, I don't know, maybe because I was at the club first. I always voted for Trina. But exactly, it was the hair. I'm not sure I was rocking the hair then. And all of a sudden, there was something inside me like, wait, there's a contest. I could win. But that's scary to be able to do that. But I won at the club level, again, against 2 other people. Then I won at the area level against 2 other people. And then I won at the district, or whatever was next, I don't know, division, something like that, level, against a few other people. And people would come up to me and say, you're really good. That was great. Now, this was 1 to 2 minutes, but there's a difference between someone who's comfortable in 1 to 2 minutes and someone who isn't. Fortunately, I'm one of those people. And it's absolutely, you don't know what the question is. Great point. They get up, they ask you a question, and it could be at the contest level, there was not even a theme. So you had no idea what they were going to ask you. And I get to that last level, I think it's division. My husband and I are driving. I'm not participating in the conference. I am going only for the contest. It's in Hershey. The directions were not great. I'm not a great planner. I'm a great speaker. I'm a terrible planner. And we basically careened into the lot, like right before the time it was going to start. We grabbed something further from their restaurant because I am shaking. Because again, poor planning, like did I bring a Larabar with me? No, of course not. So my blood sugar's low. I'm cramming food in. I'm like eating French fries while the other contestants are like, me, mama, woo, you know, they're practicing. And I'm like, okay, well, can I have some ketchup? And so I get there and you know, we get in and they introduce and they pick numbers. And so I was the 6th contestant, the final contestant. So you have to, you know, be in that hermetically sealed booth, or AKA out in the hallway, well, they asked the same question to all 6 contestants. And we went in, and guess what? We had a wireless mic, or whatever this is called, this thing that you wear the mic. And I was like, oh, this is very official. And we were on a raised platform. There were maybe 150 people in the room, which is the largest audience I had before, except for helping with freshman orientation when I was in college and speaking to a group of parents, you know, with a script that I read. And here I am in an impromptu speaking competition. Basically, my heart's still racing because we were so late. What a mess, just not a great situation. I was the last person. Everyone's so professional. I was pretty casual. Like I just did not fit into this group. And I get up there, and the contest master asks me the question, and she says, what would you tell your 10-year-old self? And she repeats the question, what would you tell your 10-year-old self? And I'm thinking, God, I'm glad she didn't ask me about politics. And so you have to come up with an answer instantly. And I said, and I remember how I started, and I said, I would tell her, it all works out. It'll all be okay. Because in 10, 11, 12, 13, like you have like elementary, middle school daughters. Oh God, it's terrible at that time, or it was for me. So looking back, I could tell myself that it all worked out. And I shared a few anecdotes in my 1.5 minutes. I walked up the stage. The applause was loud. And they announced the winners. I got second. That was the best possible outcome for me, because I had that experience and I realized it's okay to not come in first. I had people come after me afterwards and said, oh, I had you in first. The way I scored, well, you know why that guy won. But I had some of the best comments about just being authentically me. I will never be the most polished speaker. I've stumbled and fumbled 15 times. I've told you anecdotes I never had any intention of sharing. I haven't looked at my notes once, and I completely forgot what I thought I was going to say. But I connect. And that's something that's been really important to me. And so stepping out of my comfort zone, it's a long way to say that stepping out and being like, wait, this contest? Now I got to drive to Conshohocken on a Saturday, and now I got to go somewhere else, and I'm going to be in front of these people that I haven't met. Pushed me and said, you have a voice. You can use your voice. You can speak. And all of a sudden, that dream just continued to get stronger and stronger. I competed again in an evaluation contest. I blew it at the last level. I think they announced the first 3. I wasn't in it. I probably came in 5th out of the 6, perhaps. My dad was there. I mean, it was not good. But guess what? You learn from those missteps too. And I learned that I took it too casually. I was a little too confident, I think, and just flustered and not prepared. And I let myself get psyched out. Because believe it or not, this guy that I had competed in the table topics, he's like, oh yeah, I remember you. And he was like talking smack in the hotel lobby. And I let myself get completely flustered. And I learned I wasn't going to let that happen again. And so I believe that stepping out is a very important component of what you need to do to continue to pursue your dreams. I'm looking at the time and I'm seeing, am I okay? 8:35. Okay, got it. So a few other things that I'd like you to consider when it comes to stepping. Are any of you runners? Okay. Are any of you walkers? Are any of you people who thought, well, maybe I'm a runner, maybe I'm a walker, I don't know. I've used one of those Couch to 5K apps to get to the point of starting from walking and walking with running, and then running a little more, and eventually getting to the point that you can run a 5K. And I have found that to be a very helpful way for me to think about the way that I am stepping and taking those steps into my dream. Sometimes I run. Sometimes I walk. Sometimes I do 2 steps forward and 1 step back, right? I think that's the cha-cha, right? But there are different ways that we might go. It doesn't all go smoothly and easily. We don't always get to the point that we think that we're headed at the beginning. But they have the opportunity for us to go confidently in one direction and to step in and step up and step out, I think. No, step down. I missed my side. And step out really provides us with a guide of saying, how do we create more time to pursue this dream? What do we need to let go of? And what do we need to step into or lean into? And who else can support us on the journey? When I asked who here's a runner or who's a walker, how many of you are more likely to go if you have a friend waiting for you, who you've committed that you're going to run, that you're going to walk? I think it is really helpful that as you're stepping, to step with someone else. And they may not have the same dream as you. It might be easier if they don't, because then you're not competing, right? But if you have someone else that can be an accountability partner for you, that can be a support to you, that can keep you on task, say, hey, did you go check out that real estate? Are you working on a logo? That was a huge element for me when I started thinking about entrepreneurship, is I wanted to have a logo. And so a friend of mine designed my logo, and you have a card on your table. You're welcome to take if you'd like. And this, when people saw this, they said, it's just so you. That helped me so completely become absolutely concrete that I could do this, and I could be a brand, and I could pursue something that I wanted to do. And then I ordered business cards. I wanted really high quality. If you notice, these are like ridiculous. They're not business cards, they're like placards. But anyway, I didn't realize that when I ordered them. So, but to have a business card, to purchase a URL, even before I knew what the heck I was going to say on a website, those were all steps that I could take. And for me, my dream is about now pursuing this goal of entrepreneurship and continuing to develop speaking opportunities and training and coaching. You have to think about what your dream is. It may not have anything to do with business, but there are ways that you can step to achieve those dreams and those goals. If you are looking for a partner on the journey, I would be very happy to help, and I'd love to talk with you about how I can do that. And at this time, it's my pleasure to turn the program back to Trina. Thanks, everybody.